Want to welcome Stop Motion Solo from New York City. Stop is here to visit with us for his solo interview. If you guys remember, he was on the panel we had a couple of Sundays ago. And everybody wants to know where I am. And where I am is right here. I'll show you because I made myself really small. So let me see. There I am. Is that better? You guys like that? That's the best we can do. We can either have me large or small, and I prefer everybody to see the guest, you know. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and welcome to any other channels that may be mirroring us. That'll be great that you guys are supporting us. And we're going to launch right into it, and Matt's going to tell his story. So welcome, Matt. Why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little background about yourself?
All right. My name's Matt. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I guess I got involved in Occupy pretty much because I remember I studied mass media in school. And I kind of knew, like, I started figuring out just how certain things are controlled and how certain things are, like, you know, tailored to the public or whatever. And but like I didn't really think much about it then. I ended up I followed politics as always then. But then when the debt deal happened. I think last summer. And Republicans extorted Congress. I mean, I know there's a lot of politics and a lot of other interests involved in there, but it was essentially extortion what they did. And that really annoyed me. And I didn't really know what was going to happen after that, but then I heard about Occupy, and I was like, this is interesting. And I went down to Occupy the first time, not for the protest, just because I thought it would be hysterical to see tents on Wall Street. That's it. And I didn't go down the first day. I went down September 18th, and obviously they weren't on Wall Street. They were in the park, and I stayed by there just because at first I was like, I don't know what they're doing, and they didn't have any demands, and I was a demand person also. I think demands might also be able to help us now, but that's another issue. What's it called? I was there and I liked the atmosphere. People talking to each other, people discussing issues, and I'd had political discussions with family and friends. That's something I'd had, but never really with people I never knew before. And never in such an open environment saying, let's talk about this, like, without any, like, pressure to do it. They just wanted to do it voluntarily and have the discussion. So I stayed by there and kind of got pretty hooked. I think probably there was a point that I almost left the movement because I thought they were getting a bit, sometimes some of the mic checks were getting a bit radicalized, and I was like, it's like some things that were saying I didn't completely agree with, and I didn't know how far it was going to go. But then when I saw them at the on the Brooklyn Bridge mass arrests, my feeling at that point was, okay, I wanted to help out more because there was so many things wrong with that, was what happened there, like, and it didn't sit right with me at all. And having had conversations there in the park in the past, my feeling was, okay, yes, I've heard extreme things, but at the same time, I've had conversations that I know, like, that they're not crazy. And, like, they're just looking for something better and just want to discuss the issues. So I'm like, okay, I want to help out more because what happened on the bridge was just outrageous. Mm-hmm. And I think there's actually a lawsuit going against him in some way. I think they may become looking at entrapment. NYPD might be looking at entrapment there. But that was kind of how after that I was pretty much solidified in the movement. And I joined the design group because I do some graphic design and Photoshop and stuff, and that was fun. And it was cool. And design group was one of the more I guess punctual groups in the movement. Like we always got we tended to show out stuff on time. And then I remember when I also going on marches, I would just film a lot anyway, not live streaming, just filming with my camera. And at one point, someone from Global Revolution, Vlad's girlfriend, I think, says to me, Matt, would you want to be a live streamer? And I'm like, what's that going to involve? Me being on camera, me answering questions, what? And she said, yeah, on camera, whatever. And I talked more about it. I talked to them more about it, and they said pretty much, and they said at that point, well, my feeling was at that point, I'm already filming anyway. The only difference between live streaming and not live streaming is I'm doing it live. So I figured, sure, and then started live streaming. Then the first one I ever did was the December 6th foreclosure march, and that was at the time that was my favorite march because it was going to marching on Wall Street was really fun. It always was. Marching anywhere we did was really fun, but going to a place where, had I been alone going there, I might have actually been kind of nervous because I don't theoretically stereotypically fit in like in East New York at all. And I went there, and the community in the area loved the group that were there, and the occupiers who were there were really having a good time and just having fun. And that was that one and another one where we went to Avenue D projects in Manhattan were my two favorite marches, just because it's going somewhere that I'm not used to, and it really is showing like an interest in more diversity. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much where I am right now.
Well,
I've done a lot of live streaming at that point.
Yep. So you were you coming to the movement shortly out of school? Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you're an activist and composer and musician and all that, and how you came to. It sounded like you were, when you first went to the park, you were participating in it as an observer of the situation, and you said you were filming then.
Yes.
So just like with a video camera, and you were just gathering information for whatever reason. So I'd like to know some of the prehistory of
that. I studied mass media, and I graduated, I think 2007 maybe, I believe. My dates can be wrong there, but I think it was around 2007. And the job I had after that was for the U.S., the Board of Elections, when Obama ran for president. And that was really, the hours were insane. And I really don't want to go back there because I'm not going to disclose too much of the hours. That's really not the issue here, but it left a very bad taste in my mouth. I didn't like, the people there were cool, but it was overworking, and it was way more than 9 to 5 in general. And it was a federal election, so it was legal, and there wasn't any problem there, but it was just like too much, so I didn't want to go back there. And I got unemployment benefits out of that, and that lasted for a year. And then I worked for the Census Bureau. And basically, there's some more background there. I ended up when I first came to the park, yes, I was largely an observer, because I first went there thinking, okay, there's going to be demand. It's going to be something, I'm looking like, basically the package deal that you expect in any protest. I didn't find that. And so my feeling at that point was, well, I like it here a lot. I'm not really sure where it's going, but I don't want to get too involved because I don't know what the general, I didn't want to get too involved in the heavy organizing, because at that point, when it's unclear of the direction of the group, saying the wrong thing at any point could get you ousted from it. This is true with any group in general.
Right.
And so because of that, I just wanted to observe and keep watching how it developed. And after I saw the general theme and how things were growing and moving and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is cool to get involved in. And then I started doing live streaming.
Okay.
But it was largely just hanging out there, talking about it on Facebook, saying that I liked it, saying that I enjoyed what I was doing there, and just being an observer of everything going on, because there were issues with consent. There were issues with organization. It was very chaotic. It was beautiful, innocent but very chaotic. And for that reason, I kind of just wanted to stay on the outskirts, just watching it develop. Because it was really interesting to watch it develop. I had never seen anything like this in my life. And then I guess live streaming just made sense because it's reporting on it, and now I guess at first it was reporting just having fun with everyone else. Now it's reporting sort of, I guess, from more of a journalistic standpoint, I guess.
Right. So you've just developed a style and a skill level that you bring to your experience, which we all enjoy, by the way. I mean, it's different streamers have different personalities, and we love your point of view and your commentary, and we find it very helpful because you're providing some context in the situation, which not everybody gets, but it helps us to understand what's going on. I find it really interesting that early on you were already questioning the kind of tone and demeanor and the radical or supposedly radical kind of presentation you were experiencing, and that was in September/October,
Mm-hmm.
and then your resolution to that seemed to be when the Brooklyn Bridge March came on. And so
Yeah.
I was wondering, that's a really interesting thing, and I was wondering kind of where are you on that now after 7-8 months of history, because you were an early adapter, but you were an early questioner also.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still am a questioner, and there's certain things like I guess in the end, the ideal of the movement, I'm completely behind 100%. At the same time, though, realistically speaking, it's going to take a lot more than 5 years to accomplish the idea that they want to accomplish. Like, in order to have what they want to accomplish, you need to have a perfect educational system, and it's not perfect at all. You need to have everyone like there's people are very well educated in the movement, but if you don't go to the proper schooling, and a lot of people are dropping out of school now, there's issues with that. So, as far as the overall goal of the movement, it's probably not going to reach fruition maybe even in a decade, but it will certainly make significant change, and that's what's good about it. The reason I questioned it at the first place was because, as even my dad said at one point, when there's no designated leader, really eccentric radical people might end up taking it over.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how, I mean, there are certain levels of radicalness, so long as there's logic and basically if they're going to get to a point where they actually want to outright do violence against someone, I would have left immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Even outright violence against, outright violence against the NYPD at that point. Without any hesitation, I'm not sure if I would have supported that, just because I've seen plenty of crap. I've seen plenty of brutality. I've seen pepper sprays. I've seen just complete, grossly unnecessary uses of police presence in one area. Just for I've seen 30 police officers around 15 protesters, which is completely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
For example, but at the same time, I've also had some conversations with officers, and some of them support what we do. So at the same time, I can't see radicalizing any group. And there were certain elements of radicalizing Occupy in the start of it anyway, which I guess kind of got toned down as they brought in labor unions and whatever like that, and it became more there was more voices to be heard, I suppose. But when you're getting extremely radical in speech, without a sense of realism, you might end up getting yourself killed, and I'm not signing up for that.
Right. It's a good observation. We have that conversation a lot about radicalism versus reformism, and well, it's a good time to ask that question. Clearly, well, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Radicalism versus reformism. Where do you stand on that issue? And do you think it is an issue? Is there a gap, or is it just a perceived gap?
Oh, no. Well, I'd say how radical you are depends on the degree of reforms you want will depend on how radical you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. I've become a bit more I'm not sure if I've become more radicalized, but I'm certainly more I've become more aware of certain things, and I am much more confident in saying what I might have been too shy to say before the thing started. My views are pretty much the same at this point. They may have evolved a little bit, but in the end, I relatively just have the same perspective I started off at. Mm-hmm. I've learned some more, so I've gained more perspective, but it's kind of the same realistic perspective and realistic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Realistic
right.
mixed with an idealistic aspect to it. Um, but I definitely want drastic reforms. I say that I want reforms because I think revolution will ultimately involve violence, and I don't want that. But I would not be happy unless there are extreme reforms.
Mm-hmm.
For example, um, I hear people talking about taxing the wealthy their fair share. I don't agree with that. They need to be taxed more, but when you're on an income level that big, you don't tax them their fair share. You tax them the most you can. They can still, I guess within reason, I suppose. But at the same time, the term fair share kind of bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of how radical I am. Because when Clinton was president, it was like 32% on the wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
When Reagan was president, it was 70. When FDR was president, it was 90. And I'd say Reagan would be a much more reasonable type of tax code because it would give a lot more to the public in the end for public services. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, that did. As a matter of fact, it was very eloquently stated too. I like the historical references there.
Cool.
You came to the park and you said earlier that okay, you want what's the list of demands? What's the plan? What's happening? Like you had a linear observation of what your expectation was, so you could choose whether or not to get involved. And then you were there, and it's chaotic, and it is what it is. Do you feel, and we're coming up on 8 months, that the
Mm-hmm.
movement itself has gained any more or any better definition compared to the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we're rallying around is income inequality. That seems to be like the biggest issue we keep putting out there, and it's a huge issue. I think it probably is. Income inequality probably is one thing that everything can be narrowed into, but at the same time, it's a lot more issues than just that. Um, I think it's definitely become more honed in, and there's certainly become a lot more organization in the movement. Um, and I'm very happy that even people in OWS are saying that, for example, whereas OWS was the start of the movement, now it's more of a nationwide and a global thing.
Hmm.
And I'm hearing people say now, OWS can't make decisions for the rest of the movement. It's like, we're not the leaders. We started it, yes, but we're not the leaders of the movement. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely become more organized. They've definitely learned to outreach. It's definitely learned to outreach more. It's definitely gotten. There's still a lot of chaos that has to be worked out. But it's progressed a great deal considering the fact that there's no leader or central organization or whatever. But I mean, it's gonna happen slower because you don't have people who are at the top saying do this, do this, do this.
Hmm.
But it's certainly come a long way,
Right.
and it's come a long way in a much more open and intrusive way, not intrusive, inclusive way.
Hmm. Yep. And so your decision around the time of the Brooklyn Bridge seems to be solidifying over time. Um,
Yes.
I've been in similar situations where on the front end I was like, "Oh, this is the biggest mess I've ever seen," and then as you work through it, you realize that there is actually some value in the chaos because when it does gel and it does work, it's absolutely extraordinary. So then it becomes,
Oh yeah.
do we give that concession knowing that something magical can happen? Has always been kind of what my standpoint is. Zena asked, how do you
I hear
feel
that.
about the horizontal structure of OWS?
Um, I like it a lot. I think that in the end, though, there needs to strict adherence to any one thing is not good. Um, what's it called? The horizontal nature is very good because it allows for a lot more voices to come in, and it's not top down. But at the same time, I think there needs to be some form of even extremely minimal,
Hmm.
like a point person, for example, someone reporting back from a group. That's I guess that's theoretically hierarchical in a sense. Um, very loosely. loose hierarchy might actually work just to help for transition and make things run smoother. I like the lack of hierarchy though because it's really inclusive and it's not like I'm saying. I mean, there's going to be some like based on just human nature, there's going to be some basic hierarchy involved. But in the end, it's very inclusive, and the interest, the rigid interest in remaining horizontal is very helpful to the movement's development as far as letting other people in and talk.
Mm-hmm.
As I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great observation because we've experienced that in numerous ways. Personally and just working with each other, you start out, but at some point it becomes so nebulous that there needs to be a little bit of a guidance or a form to it or some borders, so at least if nothing else, you know what to push against, so that's good. When you're out in the field and you're streaming, do you approach it from the perspective of an observer or a participant? Like when you're on a march and you're streaming, are you engaged in participating, or do you have like one step removed so you can pay attention to what's going on around you, or how does that work?
I'm definitely one step removed at all times. I do consider myself an occupier. I consider myself an activist, but at the same time, even from the start of it, if you go on a march, like I don't want to get too caught up in things because if I get too caught up in things, I might end up in a kettling situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to help anyone if I get arrested. What's it called? So I'm always like, even before I was a live streamer, I was always trying to be one step removed. Even now, I definitely consider myself being involved. I do chants with them often. I do mic checks here and there to try and get people to understand what's going on with one specific issue, with how we're going to progress in the march. But in general, I do try and just stay as an observer and just give my opinions on what I'm seeing. And I mean, I consider myself an occupier, but when I'm on a march, I consider myself, I'm definitely protagonist for the movement, but when I'm on a march, I always try to stay just maintain awareness of my surroundings.
Right.
And if I get too involved in a march and I forget awareness of my surroundings, I might end up getting hurt.
Right. And I think it's good that you know where your boundaries and your limits are. Do you work with? Do you have a teammate or a buddy system? Or are you solo, like solo?
What's it called? I'm usually aware of other live streamers around me and other tweeters. I usually go on my own. In Chicago, I'm certainly going to have other people, other buddies looking out for one another, because I think it's going to be very chaotic there, to say the least. But up until this point in New York, I usually am pretty much just doing my own thing. And if I here and there I interact with the live streamers, but it's usually my own thing because I guess I feel like I know New York and I know how to be safe. I know where I am. So, but when I'm in a foreign place and things might get hectic, I'm gonna need a buddy.
Right.
So yeah.
When you're on the street and you're streaming, what's the vibe like, and do people respond well to that, or do you get challenged sometimes? I mean, just like, do you find that the population around you is welcoming to the fact that you're streaming, or are they resistant to it, or have you had experiences on both sides of the question?
Most, if someone has a problem, I really haven't heard. Usually people are often just cheering or saying hi to the live stream, whatever, enjoying themselves, just enjoying the march and just having fun with it. As far anyone who's been unhappy really hasn't said much. And by the way, if anyone watching has been unhappy, please do say something. But what's it called? Usually, I think there's a bit of an issue where I think people will get annoyed with you if they tell you not to stream and you don't stream, and you continue streaming them. I usually ask before I'm going to do that. If you're in a big march and there's 10 people who said they don't want to be on camera in a crowd of 50, and there's a big police action going on there, I have to stream it, and I can't worry about censoring on the spot.
Right.
So that at that point, it becomes their responsibility to put something over their face to cover their identities.
Right.
But otherwise, it's like I really haven't. I try to be respectful and really haven't run into many problems.
Yeah. Great. That's a good way to approach that, I think. We had a question. People want to know, where did your handle Stop Motion Solo come from?
Well, what's it called? It started off as stop motion. I play music, very experimental, jazz, rock, classical, weird stuff. I can't really explain it. You'd have to actually watch it. YouTube.com/stopmotionsolo. I have music up there if you're interested. But I was originally using the stage name as Freezer Burn just because it sounded cool, and then I went to an open mic playing, and I played one of my songs. And the open mic, what's it called? The host goes, Freezer Burn's cool, but it tastes gross, so that's a bad name for you to have. And he says, I see it more as stop motion, because the way he described it was, when I play my music, it's like I'm playing a lot, then I stop, and you think I'm going to stop, and then I keep going. So it's like stop and then motion again.
Yeah.
So that's how I got that, and I just thought that's a cool name, whatever. Stop Motion Solo came out pretty much because stop motion was taken on YouTube. I had to think of something, and
necessity is a mother. That's right. Excellent.
I'm just like, okay, I want to use this. Stop motion music I was thinking, I'm a solo artist right now. Stop motion alone, no. Stop motion solo. Okay, that works. I'll use that one. And no one took it.
And here you are. That's awesome. That's great. That was a great story. Man. So I want to let these folks know what you're doing. You mentioned Chicago. Tell us kind of what's coming up with that, because I know a little bit of the inside story, but I think you can relay your plans for Chicago here.
Pretty much get there and stream whatever I can. Mm-hmm. I have to look over the schedules more. The planning I've done up until now has largely been getting a bus and securing housing. And making sure I have a place to shower. Aside from that, as far as what marches, I'll probably try and go on as many as I can, as many actions as I can, and I'm probably going to try and stay out of trouble and just watch whatever's going on, because as I understand it, Chicago police are a bit. Somebody even told me yesterday, New York police are afraid of Chicago police. So there's a limit to. I really want to be very cautious about this, right. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit nervous. But at the same time, I want to stream, and I want to do a good job, but at the same time, I don't want to be in a position where I'm going to get hurt or injured or possibly sent to jail. So I'm going to be trying to be much more aware of my surroundings than usual with this, and I guess have a buddy system. But as far as my actual plans, just stream and keep streaming.
The plan is to get on the bus at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, right? Is that what you said? The bus leaves at 2 a.m.? So we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, because I think I'd be taking a nap right now. We need to hook you up with our friends Steve and Nancy. I don't know if you saw our interview last night, but Nancy from Code Pink and Steve Rhodes are in Chicago. And I was asking them, I said, oh, do you guys have any streamers with you? And they said, well, no, not yet, because the Bay Area streamers are kind of stuck still trying to get there, so you should look them up. I'll give you some contact info, because that would be a good
Please do.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned as part of Occupy?
No, listening I already knew. The biggest lesson learned as a result of Occupy was it's okay to trust more, because I can sometimes have an issue with trusting people I never met before, but I guess when you're in the same boat, like there is a lot of people around you who are looking out for you, and just some things like some things don't do even if they say, oh, don't trust me, dude, trust me, I'm fine, trust me, we'll do this. But sometimes you don't do that. But some other times it's just like other people have your back in this, and it's the sort of issue of just knowing you're around friends, and I guess something else I've learned is there's because before Occupy started, I remember watching a video, a Chris Hedges video. It was a YouTube promotion for his book Empire of Illusion, and this is way before Occupy even started. And he was talking about how there's a lot of illusions going on, a very American culture is very much has no idea what's going on around it half the time, and he referenced how people were actually taking literally a wrestling match and the story about someone losing their house, and how they actually had a wrestler on some news program giving financial advice, and it's and he was like, how can anyone take this up seriously? And when people take this stuff seriously, that means there's a serious problem and there's a serious risk of problems for the country as a whole. And at the end of it, the interviewer asked him, what's it called? The interviewer asked him, do you see any possible change or do you see any hope that this could see a turnaround in America? And Chris Hedges at that point pretty much just said no. It was normally you expect someone to say, yeah, I can see some hope happening. He just said, no, I don't at all. And it freaked me out a bit then. And then when I came to Occupy, it really was it gave me hope that there was something. Because I kind of understood what Chris Hedges was saying completely. Because when you make a big deal out of Snooki, you really don't care about anything.
There's a good T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a true observation.
But so and I started with Occupy and realized these people actually care. They're not interested in stupid stuff. They're talking about the issues that are actually going to have an effect in the end on them. And because of that, it was I learned that I guess there's hope always.
Excellent.
Because it might sound kind of cheesy, but yeah, it kind of bummed me out after seeing the interview. But after hanging out with Occupy for a bit and seeing people dedicated and interested, it's there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, well, that's good. I like the hopeful and optimistic. And we were talking earlier. Just that's sort of what your stream brings to us. You're showing the real deal. You show us the good and the bad and ugly, but it's always it ends up leaving one hopeful, and it's positive and uplifting that even in the middle of all the chaos, there's these beautiful things coming. And I think that's a credit to your eye and your sensibility that you're able to shine that light, in both directions and maintain a balance as you're presenting it to us, because I think we need more messages like that. We have a question from Free Will that says, are you apprehensive as a streamer given the actions taken against streamers by police and other demonstrations? So do you feel like you have a target on you because you're a streamer?
I feel like I have a target on me because I'm an occupier.
Excellent.
What's it called? Streaming, yeah, it is. I have felt nervous, but at the same time, I don't know. I try to just being an occupier, being in a protest is always risk you're taking. Being a streamer, I've heard they're targeting live streamers, so it is a bit more cautious. But at the same time, I didn't get involved in this protest movement because I thought it'd be easy and completely carefree. I mean, we're essentially marching on Rome and saying we want things to change, and it's not going to come easy. And I knew that fully when I started.
Well, that's good. So, you're approaching everything with your eyes pretty wide open, which I find really impressive and encouraging. Uppity is saying, I love your comment that the more voices that are heard, there's less radicalism. How do you feel that part of your job is to give voice to the voiceless?
Wow.
Or have you even considered that? Are we imposing it on you?
No, it's fine. I don't mind that. That's very flattering. Um, I guess voiceless in the sense that the media doesn't really cover it very much in a positive light. But my interest in this was really just to expose a different side of the movement and have fun while doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, like, when I first started off streaming, my interest was, it wasn't really journalistic at first. My interest when I first started the movement, when I first started live streaming, was not journalistic, just getting in there and having a good time. So that way, if someone else watches it, because someone else probably sees footage of arrests and beatdowns and pepper sprays and the Brooklyn Bridge things and the evictions and all this crazy stuff, it just makes you scared to even be involved in Occupy. And I guess kind of what I wanted to do in it when I started live streaming, my interest was saying, no, it's fun. And I went out there, I just wanted to have a good time, and I went out there with the intention of just having a good time, and sort of just, we're doing it seriously, but there's a really fun element, and it's just, I wanted to just say, like, anyone else watching is like, oh, this is fun. And that's why also, when I started streaming, and even kind of still now, I don't like knowing what's going to happen, because when you don't know what's going to happen, it makes it a lot more unpredictable and a lot more fun to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're watching, and all of a sudden you go, oh wait, something's going on there. Okay, cool. I'll stream there now instead. Yeah. And you're like, it's running all over the place, and it makes it a lot more unpredictable. And I think it can be sometimes funner for the audience, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know.
And so your experience overall it's a hell of a lot of work. I mean, that's obvious. It's physically grueling and emotionally draining, I would imagine. But your overall feeling is that the fun is there. You're enjoying it. And okay, that's great, and you get satisfaction out of it. I always say if you do stuff for love, then you can't lose, right? And you come at it like you don't seem the least bit cynical or jaded or anything, and that's really comes through in your work. So a question: do you feel that the machine is so entrenched that it can, as it is historically done, just throw a few bones via reforms to shut us up?
No.
That's great. Okay, next question. You think the box is open, there's no shutting us up anymore?
But I'll put it this way. When before Occupy started, if you asked anyone if you're pissed off about something going on in the world, what do? You go write about it, you go on Facebook, you tweet about it, you go to a bar, you get stoned, whatever. Would you ever in a million years think to go into a public park and sleep on concrete just because you're pissed?
That's a good point.
No, you'd never do that.
That's a good point.
And that's why, after a week, I was just like, okay, these kids are not going to give up with anything. Which is what kind of was like, okay, I'm staying. I just wanted to be around it because you don't do that unless you're dedicated, incredibly hardcore about it.
Yeah, I've said the same thing.
And they stayed there for, and then building a tent.
Yeah, that was not an easy existence in the park or sleeping out on Wall Street at night or any one of 1,000 other things that are, marching 7 miles through the city on a day is not an easy thing. So much respect for the people who do that. As a person that's out in the field and on the ground, and you interact with those of us that are out in the broad ether, how do you see that we can be more effective at bridging that gap and providing, more assistance and support? Like what is our role to help you guys fulfill? And by you guys, I mean not only streamers, but the protesters and the people on the ground into actions.
So I understand by who you're trying to help, but who is we then?
The people in the ether, the chatters, the viewers, your audience, that aren't able to be in the cities or on the ground and marching and stuff like that.
I understand. Well, I'd say if you're in the chatter, just spread the links. and spread the Twitter, spread the links, let people know who's doing this, so more people can see it. Just expose it as much as you can. If you do Facebook or whatever, just keep posting about it. Try and get word out. Even if you're not talking about Occupy, just talk about the issues that we're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get, because I mean, Occupy is just a catalyst to something more. Occupy, I don't know how, even if it doesn't last 10 years, the issues that we're bringing up are what's important, not the actual word Occupy. It's just, it's the means to an end, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the start of the means to an end, anyway. But just keep promoting, keep talking about it, don't be afraid to talk about the issues, don't be afraid to have conversations, listen to people with other perspectives, plug the links, plug all the channels, just let everyone know what's going on.
Yep.
And be very open-minded to anyone with a different perspective, because it's going to be very hard to find probably the most important thing to do is find people who are different perspectives. Because, for example, if all Occupy does is stay in New York, we're preaching to the choir. Of course, we're going to get a lot of support for Occupy Wall Street in New York City. It's a blue state. But if you go to somewhere that's more red, like for example North Carolina, where they just, the gay marriage thing. I'm not getting, that's another issue entirely, but it's a highly different ethic there. And if you want a bridge and you want to really change gaps, you have to go to people who don't normally like you at all.
Right.
And give them a reason to like you.
That's a really good point. And I don't know if you know, but I'm in North Carolina, and so is Ping, and so we just went through all this with the Amendment 1, and it was an absolute train wreck. And the voting gap was so large. In my little county, there's only like one weekly newspaper. It comes out on Wednesday, and the news today was the huge voter turnout in favor of Amendment 1. So, any progressive voices were just stifled. We're desperately a red state. One of the things, last week when the BOA actions were in Charlotte, I was so happy to see such a presence there. But you're right. We have to. Our default position is to speak to the choir because it's easy, but the hard work and the work that needs to be done is speaking to those who will disagree with us in a thoughtful and articulate manner, and to show them, I've showed people your streams and showed people live stream and say, here is the deal, and they can't believe it, because nobody's exposing them to it. So I think
people more. You show that to more liberal people or more conservative people, and they take it in a good way.
Conservative people, and they take it in a good way, because I have a theory that a reasonable person, no matter what their political persuasion is, that will think for themselves. If you put the information in front of them, they will clearly state that seeing people sitting on the ground, not causing any trouble, and getting pepper sprayed is not a good thing. But that's we got to get that information in front of people. So this is what you're saying. Can you? I don't know if you have a plan, or can you kind of tell us what your summer looks like? We got Chicago coming up, then Tampa, the RNC and DNC. Are you going to be able to make any of those trips, or kind of how do you see that unfolding, I guess, from your perspective?
I would certainly like to. I don't know what's going to happen. It's very unpredictable in Occupy. You never know what's going to happen next. I'd certainly like to go to those. Depends if I have the money or not. Depends how I, pay for the transportation over there who I'd stay with, and also depends on whether or not there's other actions going elsewhere. I mean, theoretically, you need other streamers elsewhere, so I wouldn't need to be at every action in the end.
Right.
So I'd like to be at the DNC RNC. I don't know if I will, though. We'll see what happens. What's it called? You mentioned also people sitting down and getting pepper spray. I assume you're talking about UC Davis?
Yeah.
Okay. No one really talks about this part of it. I remember the video. Everyone I ever heard talking about that video was always talking about how what I forget the officer's name now, but whatever. The one who pepper sprayed them like he was spraying plants. what's it called? When they did that, obviously that was terrible, and that really, I was like shaking when I saw that. I was like, I was infuriated when I saw him do that. But at the same time, I thought the more important part of that video, which no one really seems to have watched all the way through it, came at the end of it. There's an 8-minute long video. At the end of the video, the protesters, like, they're like, you could see like they're really pissed off about what just happened. Understandably too, and they're at one point they actually all get into a giant semicircle, and you see the officers that were there that were harassing them and I guess backing up the guy who pepper sprayed them. You could see them actually get into like a huddle formation, in complete defensive formation, because you could see that like they were actually getting afraid by the number of protesters that was surrounding them and getting really pissed, and like because the protesters were infuriated by what just happened, and the officers were standing there like they were like they weren't attacking, but they were in full defensive formation. They were ready to be attacked, and you see everyone chanting, and then all of a sudden someone in the protesters group does a mic check and goes, mic check, mic check, officers. You can take our friends, and take your weapons, and please do not return. And then he started chanting, "You can," and they didn't all. And they started chanting, and he said, "You can go." And they all started chanting, "You can go, you can go." And at this point, the officers very reluctantly turned around and left. And it was the reason I liked that part so much more than the other part was because the other part was horrible, and that was kind of like it's juicy stuff that sells in the media. But I thought the more important part was at the end how they were disciplined, civil, and showed solidarity with one another. And I guess they won that by being peaceful and just saying, "Go, we're not following this anymore, but leave, seriously." Right. And they were strong with it. Right. And that was what was most important, because that's how I think we need to be.
Yep. That was a good observation, because I have watched that through numerous times, and that's the thing that struck me so strongly was there was a tipping point where that could have gone either way, and the protesters rallied, showed force, but were not violent, and completely provided contrast to the terrible actions, and then it made it undeniable. Nobody that sees that can deny that it was morally and ethically wrong what the police did, and it shows as a prime example. Where if it had devolved, then it would have just been like room for argument. Oh well, these people got what So it was a great observation you made. What do you think the biggest challenge the movement faces is at this time?
The state.
Okay, let me reframe the question, because that was a really good answer. What do you think the biggest internal challenge that the movement faces at this time is?
Okay. Organizing and learning to work together when there really hasn't been much effort or interest or coordinating efforts to work together in decades. There have been some, but not in the wide scale that we're doing, and not with the amount of outreach that we have with the internet. And that can lead to a lot of chaos, and can lead to things going very slowly, and can lead to a lot of internal conflict and a lot of splintering and stuff like that. But so long as I say in the end, we just have to remain on the prize and know what we want to do in the end. And even the one thing, for example, the movement should not do is start focusing on police brutality. It should be an issue, but the focus in the end has to be the wealthiest 1%, because they're the ones who are pulling the strings.
Right.
The NYPD are really just, they're doing whatever they're doing, but they're following orders in the end. And if you start feeding into propaganda of how it's the NYPD, you might end up losing sight of the other thing, and the other thing is much more important.
Right.
Because if you focus on NYPD, nothing's ever going to change.
I have said that from early on, that I actually think it's a diversion and distraction tactic to shift attention away from the big issues and the big problems to the police, because everybody gets so caught up in that, and meanwhile all the one percenter stuff still keeps going on. So that was a really, really good observation. Is there any other questions coming out of the chat? If you guys want to put them up. Yes, some comments on your wisdom, young man. Comments on your wisdom. You are wise. And I just want to make the point that if you guys see Matt's hair, that used to be what my hair looked like. Okay, so the contrast here is killing me. But there it is. But yeah, you are wise and joyful, and we're grateful to have you. So if you have anything else you want to toss out to the group, any topics on your mind, or a soapbox you want to stand on?
Just for fun, I came up with a song to remember stop motion solo easier. It's so stupid, but I came up with it for fun.
Do it! I'm going to make myself small because I want everybody to see this. Like, okay, I'm small. Go nuts.
STOPMOTIONSOLO, stop motion solo.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was a premiere performance of stop motion solo. You should make a little blurb and put that up. Like, that should be your tagline, Delio. I had to pop myself back out. That was awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here. We wish you safe travels and a productive time in Chicago. Yeah, and just keep your head down, keep your head on straight, and do your thing. And we'll be watching you. And we're really grateful for the work you're doing out there and bringing these messages and these images to us. And would love to maybe hook back up with you after you get back and rest up for a debrief, what it was like to be on the ground. I'm
open for that.
Yeah. The chatters, you're getting a steady stream of thanks and best wishes and much love and appreciation for you being on tonight. Go ahead.
I have to ask, did you post my donation link?
We posted your donation links. We posted every link. Several times.
Okay.
Yeah, I can even read it. It's in bold. We pay. Please support Matt's work. We try to look out for our guests, buddy. So, and when we edit this, Zena does the editing. And
I did actually, Ping. I did call you that night. Maybe a few hours after you told me to. You didn't pick up.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, she might have been on a timer, right?
I'll call again. No big deal. What's it called? When you're editing it, please edit out my asking if you put the WePay up.
No way, man. You got to own it. You have to own it.
No.
There's nothing wrong with asking. I mean, you guys are doing a big job out there, and so you deserve all the support we can scrounge up. Thank you, Scorpy, for your comments, and I want to thank the other channels for mirroring us and screen capping, and we appreciate having all the extra viewers and the support. We do this for you guys, and I want to thank my production team. This is a team effort. OPM is a collaborative effort. Uppity, excellent job for facilitating tonight. Clearly, Suze, Zena, I love you guys, all of you. This could not happen without your efforts. And Matt, we wish you well. Please stay in touch. Travel safely, buddy.
Will do. Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing what you bring us back. So I'm going to archive this, Matt, if you want to stay on just for a moment. And I'm going to archive this, and I'll be back on the chat in just a few minutes. So you guys hang around. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Stay here?
Yeah, please. Hey, surprise everybody. You better not go anywhere because we got a special treat. Special treat. Can everybody hear me? Can you see me? Yeah? Doggy. No, Matt has a poem, and Matt is coming back on for an encore. He's going to do a poem for us, ladies and gentlemen.
I have to find it. Hold on. Just a minute. I know it's in this one. No.
He's looking through this, Matt, I have to say, this is our very first encore performance, so this is awesome. You're a trendsetter.
This might not actually be the right notebook. Hold on. I think it's in the last one, actually. Okay, this is definitely not the right one.
Well, we can wait. You can go grab another one if you need to.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to make you all wait.
No. Okay. Everybody's flicking their lighters now, and it's going to be great. Yeah, right.
All right, cool. Hold on one moment. I'll be right back.
So, I gotta say, folks, you have to admit, this is absolutely better than live TV, right? Oh, God, these trolls. Thank you, mods. So Matt's looking through the archives. Hey, amigo, good to see you tonight. Glad you could make it for some of it. You got here for the encore. This is great. I found it. Okay, I'm gonna make myself. I'm gonna make myself small. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a very special OPN production. Stop motion solo.
Okay. I wrote this, I think the summer before Occupy started, being very aware of what was going on, wanting to see some change, not seeing much change, and being a bit nervous about what would happen if there was no change ever. Okay? It's called Romerica. All right. When freedom takes the place of the word God, history will repeat itself. As a noble virtue is to a merciful figure, the Dark Ages will re-enlighten us. If conglomerate culture gains aristocracy, Martha's Vineyard and the Hamptons will become castles. Imperialism, the white man's burden. War on terror, the Inquisition. War on drugs, the sale of penance. Suppression before enlightened Renaissance. Family values before political common sense. Afghanistan and Iraq bring out the American Crusades, holy wars fought in the name of the Savior, prevent future attacks of terrorist danger, persecuting those enlightened dissidents of worshiping Satan, whistleblowing enemies of the state will always try to re-educate the layman. Guantanamo Bay and waterboarding, torture simulations of Blackwaters enforcing. Dungeon Master's efforts to coerce you to repent your ways. It's a strange parallel between now and the darkened days. Lower and lower taxes and less government intervention, sanitation could end, revitalizing the Black Death's reinvention. And for the castles, the technological forces of the kings and queens of modern chess, with crenellated security cameras decked about the exterior. High ceiling interiors with regulated thermal insides, and a private jet like a chariot of 50 horses. The world as we know it has repeated itself. Can a detour be found along the nervous system of roads and highways leading to the collapse of the American Roman Empire?
Ta-da! That was wonderful. That was great. It's so enjoyable to have you as part of us. We're very lucky. Thank you very much. You gotta keep at that stuff. Do you keep after your music and your poetry and all that? Everybody wants twinkle fingers, so we're giving twinkles. Lots super twinkles. There's so much twinkles you can't see anything. So that was really, really gracious of you to do that. And, so just so you know, OPN, and the chatters don't know this yet, but Zena and I are working tomorrow, but we're going to have our website should be up in some form tomorrow, and we're going to have a literary and poetry section that we're looking for contributions. So we want stories and contributions and all that. So keep that in mind. We would love to. We want to make like a little literary element of Occupy there, and that would be a great contribution. So we'll look forward to seeing what you can bring to us, and we'll publicize it.
You said tomorrow?
Well, we're going to have the website together tomorrow. So anytime after tomorrow.
I'm going to be in Chicago.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying do it tomorrow. I'm just saying after tomorrow we will have a place for whenever.
I understand.
Okay,
cool.
But great. We would love to showcase you there. So, so the trolls are getting bad. So we're gonna let you go, and maybe they'll crawl back in their holes wherever they may be. And thank you again. And I'm gonna I'm gonna archive this. This is part 2 of your interview. Thank you for sharing that with us. It was wonderful.
Cool.
And wish you safe trips and safe travels. So I'm going to archive this one, and